It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the
around is taking a walk, and in a few minutes we shall have the PSST. So our panelists are already here. We would be able to encourage more people to come in, and as soon as they come in, we're going to run down very fast because the people we have allocated a limited time to us. But as that is happening, it is important that we understand ourselves. We greet the friends before us. Tourism is about being happy. Okay? That is why somebody was saying tourism is a job you do, you work while you enjoy. Eh? Is there anybody who is doing such a job? As you work, you're also enjoying, not so? So we expect that when you're working in tourism, you must be happy. My name is Richard Kawere. I am the principal of the Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute in Jinja. Most people who knew me as a staff from Makerere University Business School, where we associated with Professor Isali a couple of years ago. But now I moved ship. Now I'm in Jinja, shortly landing Lusoga quietly. I will welcome you to Jinja every day. When the hotel opens its doors, we will welcome all of you to Jinja. We are undergoing a 360-degree infrastructure development, and by the end of this year, we'll be opening our doors to welcome you as our guests. That commercial break is not paid for, so I will not continue, but it is very important because what we're going to discuss is about funding sustainable investments in tourism. And we were one of the case studies of government funding a collaboration between World Bank and the government of Uganda. So I think we're going to dive into those discussions. Our key presenter is a PSST himself. I know he's also a former student of Professor Isali. So Professor Isali is going to be associating with these students. It is interesting at this level. Otherwise, notables, we will want to welcome Her Excellency, our ambassador, the Consul of Arusha. You're most welcome. She's with us. She's promoting Uganda in Tanzania and in Arusha. The Tanzania tourism landscape is growing much faster, and I think we have a lot of lessons to pick from there. We're happy to be joined by people from the Petroleum Authority. You're most welcome. I can see some notables. I am not going to mention people by people, but I want to welcome all of you. We have already been joined by the chairperson of the Uganda Tourism Board, Ms. Pal Horuka Koza, seated here at the front. Thank you for allowing me to participate and be a moderator, because if you had said no, maybe probably I will not be here. Pal is an investor and the chairperson of the travel agency in Uganda. And yes, she has over 20 to 30 years experience in this industry. If you have not bought a ticket to travel out of Uganda, Uganda Tourism, Uganda Travel Bureau 2004 Limited is awaiting to give you your first ticket to fly out of Uganda. That is what they do most. Also events and incentives. So as we wait for our keynote speaker, Sophie will be giving me an update how far he is. I'll ask that when our keynote speaker comes, I will invite the panelists. We will have, we are not going to have the national anthem. I think it was already done. We will have some quick introductions, and then he will make his keynote address. We'll take a few pictures, and then we'll start the discussion. But currently, I would want to say that as we wait for the PSST, we want to appreciate the Ministry of Finance for progressively increasing the tourism budget from 0.01 about 4 years ago to 0.45. We are still below 1 digit, but we contribute the highest in terms of revenue. So, Mr. Isali, I think we deserve a fair share of this cake. Yeah, if you said at least 1%. But still, as it is said, there's been progress. There's been appreciation. At one point in time, in 2014, 2012, the whole entire budget of the tourism sector was only 39 billion for the whole entire tourism sector. Currently, it's about 200 billion, so there's some remarkable growth. But I would want to say that this budget is more of recurrent expenditure. If tourism is to grow, we must invest in tourism infrastructure, because it's the tourism infrastructure that now sparks development. It's a now which encourages the private sector to invest. So I think those are discussions we're going to have. Mr. Hisali is going to be advising us on how we can prepare bankable. How can we position ourselves? How can government and private sector be able to prepare? How do we get ourselves to be bankable? How do we get ourselves to be financed? So those are some of the discussions that are very interesting. But without finances, we can't grow. Without finances, the tourism sector cannot grow. So how do we increase that budget? How do we increase the numbers? Because for the 0.04, we have already shown signs that the numbers have grown. We are about at 1.2 now. After COVID, we would want to scale up to 2 million and plus. Government has set us a target of 5 billion by 2030, 5 billion US dollars. How do we achieve the 5 billion in the next National Planning Authority, NDP4? We have been at 1.6 before COVID. Now we want to almost triple the 1.6 by 2030. What kind of investment do we have? So those are going to be very interesting questions that we are going to be interrogating and learning from our professors and from policymakers and private sector financing institutions. Otherwise, you're most welcome. I will be getting leads Probably I have seen I would call it the advanced party of the EU, uh, the EU delegation. I'll be getting advances on how many minutes do we wait so that we can be able to take our seats. I will want to get a little. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the head of delegation from European Union, I think without wasting a lot of time, would request him to take his seat, the middle seat. Lois, please help me. Yeah, we'll take the middle seat. I'm going to invite the other panelists. Please take your seat. Professor Isali, you please come and take your seat. Maybe you'll sit closer to me since we understand each other. I am going to invite I'm going to invite Mr. James Karaman to take your seat. It's free sitting. Thank you. I'm also going to invite Paul from the private sector to also take his seat. So that leaves us with only one seat, which will be taken by the PSST. I will take the honor to take you through Thank you, Lydia, for the coffee. I have also been advised that the PSST has just arrived. We want to thank His Excellency Jean Sadak, the head of the European delegation, who is with us today. Ambassador Jean Sadak is the head of the European delegation to Uganda. I don't know whether I should say, but he comes to us from Sweden as an ambassador from Sweden to Uganda, and thank you very much. And his first career role in ambassadorship was done in the Czech Republic. He moved on to Moscow in Russia, Belarus, and after 3 years as his head of the consular section in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Stockholm, in the aftermath of the tsunami, he was in 2018 appointed ambassador of Sweden to Sudan. So he's been very close to us in the previous years. And he stayed on for 5 years. During that time, he was further accredited to the Republic of South Sudan in 2011. From 2013 to 2017, Ambassador Sadak was the Swedish ambassador to Ethiopia and the African Union in Addis Ababa, with an accreditation also in Djibouti and the IGAD region. In 2018, he was appointed the ambassador of the European Union to Botswana and to the Regional Economic Community of SADC, which is a South African Development Community. By training, Ambassador Sadak has a degree in medicine. So, but we do not have patients here for diagnosing. He also served as a UN officer during the war in Bosnia and is a member of the OSCE mission in Sarajevo in 1994-1995, and he speaks the following languages: Swedish, English, Russian, French, Czech Republic, and Bosnia. So in him, we have a dictionary of 6 languages. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us and bringing such experience. When I was asked to study French, I rebelled in high school. And later on in life, I found that I think I had rebelled against the biggest opportunity of my life. So when you go back, tell your children that these things are very important. Thank you very much for being the role model and an example, and thank you for liking Uganda. We have James Kamara, the head of the client coverage, corporate and investor banking, Stanbic Bank of Uganda. James Karama, you're most welcome. James Kamara joined Stanbic Bank Uganda in March 2008 as a senior relationship manager responsible for global multinationals. While at the bank, he also served as a manager, country strategy and investment relations in 2010 to 2013. From 2013 to 2020, James was responsible for the implementation of the Stanbic oil and gas strategy. As I was saying that, we are joined by the PSST, the gentleman who commands my budget. He can decide to reduce it to 0. You're most welcome, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and I will immediately invite you to the front to take your seat. It is a free sitting, but you will come to the seat just after Professor Isali. He has declined and wants to sit between the two ladies. Right, it's also acceptable. I was still going through quickly our panelists. James leads a team of specialists. He supports the development and implementation of strategies to deliver the corporate banking financial goals. And additionally, he ensures that the team leverages industry relationships to achieve high-level client service, business targets, and revenue opportunities across the portfolio. He boasts of 20 years of banking experience in various institutions. He worked with the Standard Chartered Bank, Chevron Oil, Postbank, and now is with Stanbic Bank. James, you're most welcome to this panel. And maybe I should mention that he's a chartered accountant. And he's also an MBA from Oxford Brookes University. Thank you, James, for bringing on that experience. We have our associate professor, as I already said, Professor Elia Isari, the principal of the School of Economics at Makerere University. I have already mentioned that I was in his class of economics, and by the virtue that I'm standing here, I did not fail. So Professor Isari, I do not have any problem. I don't hold any grudges for the marks you gave me. So probably, Dr. Isari, I remember back in days, he was one of the most humble professors we had. Dr. Isali is an associate professor at the School of Economics, Makerere University. He is currently serving as the principal of the College of Business and Management Science at Makerere University. He holds a PhD in the field of economics and a Master of Arts in Economics from Makerere University, a Master of Economics from the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and a Bachelor of Arts degree from Makerere University. Dr. Isali has served the university community in several capacities, including his current role, and is also Makerere University and board member of the institutions, including the Financial Market Development Committee and Technology Consultants. Is also a member of the Board of Research and Graduate Training and a member of the Senate. Professor Isali has his tenure in leadership has registered a number of achievements, streamlining the accountability structures at the college and efficiency, utmost transparency in resource management, human resource capacity development, and laying foundations for the financial sustainability and visibility of the college. He also proved exemplary leadership and mentorship to many of the PhD students, and by the time you become a professor, you must have supervised at least not less than 3 PhD students, if I could mention. Professor Isali has also worked at the African Economic Research Consortium and Trade Policy Training Center in Africa. He has also undertaken policy-oriented research in various aspects in the Ugandan economy, and especially in small agricultural development and exchange rate movement. He is also an adjunct faculty of the Trade Policy Training Center in Africa, based in Arusha and Tanzania. He previously worked as a visiting lecturer at the joint facilities for electives of the Collaborative Masters of Arts in Economics program by the African Economic Research Consortium, and he also consulted at various local levels. Professor Isali, with that heavy CV, you're most welcome. We have Paul Nwagaba. Paul Nwagaba is representing the Chief Executive Officer from the Private Sector Foundation, Mr. Stephen Asimwe, who is the, I think, immediate past CEO of the Uganda Tourism Board. Paul boasts of a career from banking, is an accomplished banker, and now is in development finance. And Paul, you're most welcome to join us. So that is the panel we have today. And I know the PSST, by now of his work, he may not be able to grant us a lot of time. The PSST, our keynote presenter, thank you. The PSST, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, is the Permanent Secretary and Secretary Treasurer, Ministry of Finance, Economic Development. Mr. Ramadan Gobi is an accomplished economist and policy analyst currently serving as a PSST and Economic Development and Treasury of the Republic of Uganda. He has spent most of his career at the university, Makerere University Business School, since January 2008 until he was appointed PSST in 2021. I want to say that Mr. Ramadan Gobi is the founder of the think tank called the MUBS Economic Forum. And I think it's working a lot currently in bringing up new ideas. Between 2017 and 2020, Mr. Ramadan Gobi served on the board of directors of the Uganda Development Corporation, UDC, the investment arm of government of Uganda. At the end of the term, he was rated the best director, both by fellow directors and management. So His Excellency speaks for himself and his position now. Between 2020 and 2021, he served as a senior presidential advisor on the national economy and accomplished several tasks assigned to him by His Excellency. Mr. Ramadan Gobi has also consulted with several organizations, including the International Labour Organization, the Overseas Development Institute, ODI, UK, and he has also, for the financial sector, deepening Uganda, FSD, the Action Coalition for Development and Environment, ACCORD, and the PSST has set his agenda to reform the national budget to make it more responsive to national development priorities, improving to appraisal and implementing the national development projects and ensuring accountability with measurable results, the economics that works. Mr. Ramadan Gobi holds a master's in policy, economic policy and planning, Makerere University, and a Bachelor of Economics major, Makerere University. Is a certified in energy economics, and is a certified in sustainable development, and is a PhD candidate at Walden University in the USA. Thank you very much. I'm going to request that as the PSST comes to make his presentation, we give the opportunity, the audience, to view him alone upstairs. Then after his presentation, I will call back the panel. So I request that His Excellency, Ambassador, you could please take the seat next to the chairperson board. Professor Isali, you could please take a seat. James, I don't know why you like the back, but you're most welcome. So without wasting a lot of time, I would want to welcome our Permanent Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Dorian Katsime. She has joined us in the meantime. And with that, I'll immediately invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, the PSST for the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Development. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Kawere, Your Excellency, the Ambassador representing the EU, the PS Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the chairperson of UTB, and really the ED, the CEO, and all of you invited guests, my Professor Isali, and all of the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, particularly those from the private sector. I greet all of you. I, first of all, want to thank the leadership of UTB for inviting me to make this keynote address here, but also to share my views on the subject that I love most, tourism development. I welcome all of you, those especially who are coming from afar, to this 8th Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo that is annually hosted by the Uganda Tourism Board. I thank the board for consistently positioning Uganda as the premier tourism destination. It is very heartwarming to note that Uganda does not only rank quite high on the list of the best tourist destinations in the world, but also recently was ranked by the 2024 Annual Investors Conference held in Abu Dhabi as the best investment destination in Africa. At the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we recognize that the improved performance of Uganda, especially in the tourism sector, does not only increase inflows of foreign exchange, it also serves as a vote of confidence in the stability, the security, and standards of the country's economy and society. Tourism also plays a big role in fostering cultural and social ties. It is arguably an asset for the country's soft diplomacy toolbox. It is also an undisputed fact that individual experiences and expectations are what feed into the perceptions that drive the flow of tourists and travelers. This understanding of tourism is at the center of government's approach to tourism development under the new strategy of growing the economy of Uganda tenfold. Under this strategy for growing the economy tenfold, tourism development is projected to generate a total of $50 billion by 2040, up from its base of about $2 billion in 2022-23. The strategy envisions a five-fold increase in the inbound tourists, a 30-fold increase in the value generated by internal tourism, and a doubling of both average spending per tourist from 3 million shillings to 6 million shillings, and average length of stay of the tourists from 1 to 2 weeks. And to deliver these targets, it is important to understand that tourists, like all other humans, pay attention to risks. And therefore, the mitigation strategies available in their perspective is very, very important to grow our sector. When selecting a destination to travel for leisure or for business, tourists look beyond the pleasure and experience of their specific tourism package. They go ahead to ask a number of questions, and some of them could include the following. The tourists would want to know, what is the level of crime in their potential destination? What is the state of the road safety? How does the society handle food and drug safety? What is the standard of public health and hygiene? What about the court system? Are they effective and efficient in case one encounters a legal challenge? Are the relevant facilities and service providers registered and adequately regulated? Is there access to reliable and affordable health care, and so on and so forth? Going by these questions, you very quickly realize that tourism development is a business for every citizen, and also every ministry, department, and agency of government, as well as the overall private sector players. It cannot be left alone only to Uganda Tourism Board and the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Antiquities. In other words, tourism development must be tackled using the value chain approach. I am aware that the tourism value chain in Uganda is still faced with many constraints, including limited branding, marketing, and promotion, inadequate tourism infrastructure, an underdeveloped and narrow product range, and an inadequate workforce with a limited level of skills. As government, we are working actively to ensure that we address these constraints. And the following are some of the efforts we are putting in. Number one is the implementation of tourism interventions worth $68 million under the Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Project. These include upgrading both the facilities and skills at the Uganda Hotel, Tourism and Training Institute in Jinja, supporting wildlife product development under the Uganda the Wildlife Research Institute, I beg your pardon, in Kasese. Also enhancing capacity through the Uganda Wildlife Education Center in Entebbe. Number 2 is completion of a total length of 1,782 kilometers of tourism-related roads between 2012 and 2023. Additionally, 7 tourism roads are either undergoing civil works or procurement for commencement in 2024-25, next financial year. These include Hoima Butiaba Wanseko, Masindi Biso, Masindi Park Junction, Kitigumu Kidepo, Karenga Kabong Kotido, and government has also committed to upgrade the Chisoro Magahinga, Chisoro Nkuringe, Rubuguri Muko, Kabale Lake Bunyonyi roads. The construction of Kabale International Airport and the upgrade and expansion of Entebbe Airport should also be noted. Both these interventions have advanced to their tail end, and in addition, 6 functional aerodromes have been established in Chisoro, Kasese, Moroto, Tororo, Mbarara, and Jinja airfields. Number 4 is the supply of ferries, search and rescue boats, and navigation aids. This one is ongoing with the funding from the African Development Bank. We also have the training of about 1,000 security personnel, tourism police, as well as criminal department officers in enforcement of tourism regulations in various districts, including Kabarore, Kasese, Mbarara, Kabale, here in Kampala, Masaka, Hoima, Guru, Arua, Lira, Jinja, Mbale, and Masindi. I can't forget the expansion of internet infrastructure under the Uganda Digital Acceleration Project to ensure that internet access and connectivity are improved. $200 million have been invested in this, and we hope that this is going to contribute to the efficiency of our connectivity. Then completion of electrification of 9 tourism sites in the Murchison Falls National Park in Bwindi Environs and Kabongo District, and survey of an additional 2 sites for electrification in Masindi and Kasese districts. But even with all of these interventions, I still have questions from my interaction with the stakeholders, including UTB, the private sector. Where is Amos Wekesa? Is he around? And Tumusime, I think a lady called Tumusime. I've been interacting with a number of them. These stakeholders, as well as my observations, have brought so many questions which are yet to be answered. Some of them include, and these are mine now, I usually ask Lily and others, what is Uganda's tourism strategic agenda? Who is best positioned to lead this sector's transformation? Should it be government or the private sector? Is there a consensus in the industry on what strategic role the government should play? Should the government be the one to lead in marketing tourism or the private sector? How should the public investments in this sector be organized to maximize impact? These questions are quite pertinent, and we have been discussing them. We are getting answers to some of them, But some of these issues, we need to find a better way of resolving them. The need for the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities to develop a comprehensive tourism policy, as well as a master plan, in consultation with other stakeholders, to guide the sector on leadership and strategic issues, defining the roles for each stakeholder, clearly defining the interconnectedness of the various key players in the sector, giving each of them the tools that they need to deliver our strategy, but most importantly, identifying the key performance indicators for the sector. We need also to look at the effective functioning of the NDP Tourism Development Program with a strong and effective participation of both public and private sector players. In the coming financial year, we've increased the support to the sector, but also there are still gaps in the support to the key facilitators of the sector. I understand the UTB lost some money. I want to assure you, you will get back your money. We shall find all it takes to ensure that you are supported fully to do your job. But we increased the support to Uganda Wildlife Authority. We've invested in tourism roads. We have also brought in support for the foreign missions to actively support this agenda. We are starting with the 10 foreign missions, and very soon I will be concretizing with you the operational plan for it, so that we are able to know the results we expect, the deliverables of each of them in the support of 3 major key areas: tourism, exports, and foreign direct investments. The money is already in the budget, but we need to concretize on the deliverables. We shall meet together with also the private sector, so that we are able to speak the same language. In conclusion, I wish to affirm the commitment of Government of Uganda to the tourism development. And this support cuts across the entire government, from His Excellency the President down to the parish chief. As a CEO of our lowest unit of planning in government, my team and I at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development are continuously thinking ways and means to increase support to this program of tourism development, and how best we could coordinate these public investments and also leverage the private sector and other non-state actors, our development partners, the multilateral institutions, because they have also expressed interest in working with us to develop the sector. And I want to assure you that we shall, as a ministry, be there all the time to listen and also get guidance on the best way to improve this wonderful sector. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, for the excellent articulation and presentation and keynote address, scaling from where we are, the gaps, and what we intend to, and what government intends to do. Without wasting time, I am going to invite you back to the podium. There will just be a few questions. But as you come, we'll immediately take a photograph with the panelists. So I'm going to invite back my panelists one by one. I'll first of all invite the PSST to come and take his seat. I'll invite His Excellency the Ambassador also take his seat. I'll invite my Professor Isali, to also take his seat. I'll invite my brother James Karama to also take his seat, and my brother from the private sector, Paul Nwagaba, to also take his seat. So as they take their seats, since we do not have a lot of time, I'll ask you to, in a few seconds, to take to the podium. We take the photograph, so that if there's an urgent call to the PSST, he at least appears in this photograph that he was around. Please, may you... where is our photographer? Sophie? You had so many of them around. So the photographer is not there. We are going to have a few quick questions to the PSST because he might leave before we conclude. And if that, I don't know how much time we have with you. If you can give us an additional 30 minutes, shall invite a few questions from us, from the public, that will go to the PSST. We have 45 minutes. If you can now give us 45 minutes, we run through the panel and you can be with us. Is that okay? So that we run through and the questions are aggregated properly, because they will be isolated, yet if we aggregate them through the panelists, they would make a lot of meaning. So we will have our panelists. We shall take it off from His Excellency. Our discussion today is about the funding opportunities for the green investment sustainability in the tourism sector. And EU has been a key partner in pushing for investment in the green, in sustainability, and also funding the tourism investment. In your view, what is it that the EU, as a development partner, could be having in the store, and what are those few gaps that you see that we need to close to be able to harness, first of all, the available investment in the development patterns, and what we can be able to mobilize that we can tie together with government to create that investment envelope that can be taken advantage of by the private sector. So you will take the first shot. I'll give you, you just switch on the microphone. You take the first shot to give us those highlights from your seat that you think we should harness. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you
and
very
I'll
much,
give you the shot.
Mr. Moderator. But I think I want to first of all address our dignitaries here. So I start with the PSST, Mr. Gorby. It's a pleasure to be here, Minister of Finance. And obviously we also have the PS Doreen from the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. And it's a pleasure to have both the board chair and the CEO of Uganda Tourism Board. I think we would say in Sweden, where I come from, is you sit between two such distinguished people from the Uganda Tourist Board, you can wish something. So I think you can make a wish, probably something around tourism. And well, also the rest of the distinguished panel, it's a pleasure. You're really the experts here. I'm a mere amateur, but I have with me also Mr. Luis over there, who is really the expert in the EU delegation, who can also respond to any questions. So I want to greet all of you, all the representatives from the tourism sector here in Uganda. I say distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I got a question from the moderator, but let me just tell you that I'm very delighted to be here in this seminar and discussing, I think, access to finance is what I have prepared myself for, so I will talk a little bit about that. And I will also want to say a few words about what the European Union has been doing on tourism in Uganda and what we plan to do. So if you accept that as my response. But first is to congratulate the organizers of this whole expo. I was actually here on time today, but we had not started, so Mrs. Ajara took me around. It's a great event to see the exhibition hall with the 200 exhibitors. And also great to see that hall and that you are really there at Speak Resort. Is it Ruwenzori or Victoria? I can never... Ruwenzori. It's an incredible achievement, I think, for Uganda, and also something that will put Uganda on the map for international conferences. So congratulations to a very good event. I can tell you that I met with a European stakeholder on my way here who told me that this is by far the best of these events. So congratulations really to that. And one important aspect, I must say, is the atmospherics. I was at the dinner the other night, and it not only, you know, did it explore the various cultural aspects of what Uganda can offer, but the atmosphere was really so joyful and pleasant. I think that's really where you should start when you want to promote tourism. You should do it with enthusiasm and with joy, and that's what I see from all the stakeholders, really. So joy and it should be done with pleasure, but also, of course, with dedication and understanding. And let me just say that I was very impressed by what the PSST spoke about, really his understanding and the government's understanding that it's not only about the individual tourism establishment, it's not only about the elephant or the leopard, it's about everything around: traffic safety, logistics, airports, etc. And since I now have the microphone, PSST, I think you allow me, I have one little low-hanging fruit in terms of how Uganda could make a better first impression. I don't think you know what I'm going to say, but when you land at the airport, you mentioned the airport has been through a very good renovation. I think it's fantastic, you know, much more beautiful even than when I arrived just a couple of years ago. But there's one thing, and it's when you have picked up your luggage, you have to go through the X-ray machine. And the X-ray machine has a very short conveyor belt, so all the bags just fall on top of each other. It's big chaos after the X-ray machine. And I don't know if you really need to X-ray all the luggage. Normally it's not done. If you need to, I would extend that conveyor belt because it gives an unnecessary chaotic impression for the first-time visitor. This is a very small detail, but since I have the microphone, I thought, why don't I mention? It's actually it's quite bizarre. It's one of the few things that disturb me, you know, when I arrive in
I wouldn't clap. I don't know why they are clapping.
Yeah, it was half humor, half truth, actually. So I mean, but you do as you wish with that. We're also very glad that we have so many European companies represented here at the event. It's important, and thank you for inviting a few of them to visit Uganda. Now, in terms of our work here, what we think is important for tourism, we have worked very closely, as you mentioned, with the government here for a number of years. And with some of our member states, we have been promoting tourism's role in the economic development. And the overarching ambition is to create jobs, actually, and facilitating. We have been trying to facilitate access to finances and also fostering an environmental stewardship in Uganda. So this is the sort of two of the important reasons for us. We have witnessed a substantial progress over the years with increased investment and infrastructure development in tourism hotspots, and an enhancement of community-based tourism initiatives and the preservation of critical ecosystem. And we believe, however, that there is plenty of work to be done, and I think that's why we have these expos to discuss. And I have the understanding now that the government is fully aware of what needs to be done. But we will, I can promise you that the EU and our member states, we will try to accompany Uganda on this journey and continue investing in tourism here. So in terms of access to finance and what we will be doing here together with the Ugandan government and other stakeholders, when we look at this, we have had to identify the big five in the support of tourism, the big five, and it's not the elephant, etc. It's skilling, infrastructure, transport, and marketing, 4 of them. And the 5th would be then access to finance. So I think among the big 5, access to finance is clearly there. So unless you are already a very big company without reserves problems, access to 5 is always one of the big headaches and challenges for most entrepreneurs and business persons, at least those that I speak to. And one issue is, of course, that if you have to borrow from commercial banks in Uganda, the interest rate is between 21 and 25%, which for me, coming from Sweden, is just incredible. I think I pay like 3% on our apartment in Stockholm, so that's a big difference. To address this and also to address the COVID pandemic that affected all sectors in Uganda, but specifically tourism, we at the EU, we joined hand with the Uganda Development Bank to put in place a very innovative initiative, which we haven't seen elsewhere in the region, where loans and grants were provided jointly at a very competitive conditions, down to 7 to 8% interest rate with 2 years grace, in order to pay for salaries of the staff at hotels and tour operators and keep them as breadwinners of their families during those difficult times during the pandemic. And in 2022, we expanded this facility to include also expenditures meant to go to greening by investing in improved practices of waste management, energy efficiency with solar panels and such. And so far, we are supporting 100 hotels and tour operators. And if you think you would be applicable for this program, the UDB, EU Tourism Recovery Facility, you can still apply because we have some billions left of the 64 billion Ugandan shillings that we spent on this program. We also have a stand together with UDB in the big exhibition hall, so you can get much more information from them. In terms of concrete points I want to raise in terms of access to finance, on the EU side, this is how we would see it. And I think I'm stating the obvious when I say that there is a pressing need to improve access to finance for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises and communities engaged in tourism, in the tourism value chain, through an improved business enabling environment and the provision of tailoring financial products delivered through innovative digital channels. Access to finance is a major barrier for businesses, especially SMEs in the tourism sector. So providing tailored financial products and technical assistance is very important because it can unlock investment opportunities and support the growth of sustainable tourism enterprises. And given that businesses are operating in the tourism value chain, they're usually collateral poor, So further developing the ecosystem for movable collateral should be urgently addressed, meaning, you know, not only using the lodge as a collateral, but also the vehicles and so on. This could be important. There's also a lot of complex regulations and lack of coordination among stakeholders that hamper tourism and business growth. Streamlining regulations, improving quality assurance mechanism, and enhancing collaboration can create a conducive environment for tourism development. I'm sure that the PS is aware, but this is at least our assessment. Then we have two quite technical points that I nevertheless want to mention briefly, but my colleague Louise can go into the details so that I don't talk about things that I don't understand. But there's also a need to conduct a detailed diagnostic of regulatory environment, strengthening the legal and regulatory environment by identifying and addressing the constraints within the credit information market and larger movable assets-based lending ecosystem. I'm sure the PS is also better aware than I am around these things. So the movable assets-based lending ecosystem. And then we also believe that Uganda would need to create a shared ICT platform for credit information submitted to credit bureaus, and create a data hub credit registry at the Bank of Uganda to improve the quality of credit information. Important is also to support financial institutions, including fintechs. Perhaps we will hear more about that from our expertise here in the panel. To increase the knowledge about the needs of and the opportunities for financing of MSMEs in the tourism value chain. And also support selected lending institutions in the development and implementation of, and now it becomes very technical, algorithmic psychometric scoring systems. If you're curious about all of this, you need to speak to Louise over here. Technical assistance and business development services, also important to address tourism businesses' capacity gaps and promote a green transition towards responsible production. And then finally, to enable these stakeholders to develop bankable investment proposals based on green and circular economy principles. And we believe there's also a need to focus on women-led businesses. So these are a few of the sort of points that we have identified through our expertise at the EU delegation, and that we think could be important for Uganda to look further into in terms of access to finance. I'm sorry if I was a bit technical here. Perhaps you understand this better than me, I'm sure. We can also write up a few of these points and hand over to the organizers if you want to study our conclusions more in detail. Let me also finally, I think the moderator is nervously wondering when I will finish, just conclude to say that for the future, I already promised that the EU will stay committed in supporting tourism in Uganda like we have done for a number of years. And we are now in the approval process of an initiative to support sustainable tourism in Uganda for 15.5 million euros. What is that in? It's times 4. That's 60 billion Ugandan shillings. Yeah. And we are considering to include access to finance as one of the 3 objectives with this. So access to finance. The others would be to increase Uganda's visibility and attractiveness as a sustainable travel destination, and increase local communities' participation in tourism and in natural landscapes and their conservation. And I believe and hope that this is also in line with what the government and other stakeholders here in Uganda think is important. So with that, Master Ceremonies, I conclude my remarks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Let's give him a second round of applause for taking a total round of the tourism sector He's been with us from the launch and he's been observing. And his commitment to say that as head of the delegation, we are going to continue working with government to provide financing. What I didn't hear is whether this financing, maybe 50%, should be closed for tourism investment. If it is 60 billion and you give us about of that 30 billion on our additional budget, you close it for our investment. We'd be very happy. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that. I am going to ask Mr. Kamara quickly to, Mr. Kamara comes from the private financing institutions. The private financing institutions are those that can provide credit to a private investor. Yes, they do provide for government, but mainly they are available to providers for financing. But there are gaps where they may invest, where they may not invest. And Mr. Kamara, coming from one of the biggest banks in this country, is going to be sharing with us what are those tourism products they have that they can be able to finance. What are those gaps which they are not going to finance? What are the limitations? And what's the right kind of mix of investment for growth that you would advise both the private sector and government to take on? Please, Mr. Kamara, in about 6-7 minutes, you could be able to give us your views coming from the hot seat of the private financing institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here to share with you our perspectives. So there's a lot of benefit from tourism, and it's a big source of revenue for lots of businesses within the country, and it's also a source of forex, kind of a forex cushion to protect our shilling and protect the exchange rates. In recent past, it also provides a good motivation for environmental conservation. Tourism forces us to protect the natural environment so that we can keep it for the future generations. I imagine if there was no tourism, there would be no motivation to protect these sensitive places. Now, tourism is more of an ecosystem that brings together the transportation of the tourists, and that means infrastructure, and that is air, road, water, transport, the hotels and restaurants, and the actual travel agencies, and the recreation activities around this activity. And this creates the ecosystem which we finance. One thing for sure is we don't operate in isolation. We're not able to finance without admitting that we don't have the perfect solution for each and every financing requirement. For good reason. A lot of times, tourism requires patient capital, where you invest over a long term. Not the typical commercial banking facility is 5 years, and in only exceptional cases can even move it to 6.5 years. 7 years is almost impossible to get in a typical commercial bank. So we expect that for tourism, there has to be the right place, the right mix of multilateral funders, development finance institutions, and even bilateral arrangements with foreign governments, like the EU, supporting this ecosystem. Banks on their own won't be able to provide all the patient capital required. Another important element is, because of the nature of tourism, it's not what you call, we call it the Colgate principle. You use Colgate every day. So it's easier to finance a Colgate manufacturer, because every day somebody's going to use Colgate. Tourism is seasonal. It's not one of those businesses where you can have tourists all year round. There'll always be those cycles of tourism. And therefore, funding it is not always going to be on a model that is purely commercial. There will always be an element of having to provide competitive financing at good rates. And this is something that requires a lot of collaboration and a mix of funders around the opportunity. So how we see it is the basic long-term infrastructure where you need patient capital at good rates. And then there are the commercial bits that require support to facilitate working capital expansions, targeted expansions of these facilities, targeted infrastructure for transport. So for example, we'll find boats on Lake Victoria. So where there are established hotels already on the island existing that may have been funded through the World Bank or EU or with government guarantees from government, we come in to provide the boat infrastructure. Typically, we'll fund expansion to conference facilities where we have existing hotels and they want to win the business segment of tourists who come in for conferences. We'll fund those type of facilities. In a few cases, we funded hotels where there are established businesses. The one thing commercial banks will struggle to do is fund ideas. If you come with we call them greenfield. Typically, as a rule, when we lend, our licensor, the central bank, requires us to provide what they call a provision. You take a provision for every loan that you give. So the more high risk the loan, the higher the provision you have to take. So to manage that, we normally don't fund greenfield. So if you work with an idea, we would expect PSFU to first help you, PSFU maybe and the EU to first help you to bake the idea. He'll come in and talk for himself, but to bake the idea, incubate it, make it real, and then we're able to come in and provide the financing. We take note of the COVID pandemic. We can't avoid discussing the COVID pandemic. It was a black time for business and tourism especially. A lot of bad loans were realized out of the lockdowns, and now the cleanup is going through the banking system. We're remediating these loans and getting them, rehabilitating them, and confidence is returning. At the moment, the tourism sector is taking less than 2% of the total loan book in the banking sector, and the rate of growth is less than 10%. We expect that as we come out of the COVID destabilization and distraction, the pace of lending will pick up and grow and speed up. Thank you.
Thank you, James. James brings in an interesting discussion, and which PSST and the development partners, I think, have listened to candidly. They don't take much risk beyond 7 years. If you're to build a hotel, the return on investment may come 10 years, 15 years. So meaning that there's a limitation that they have, that we must cover. He proposes a mix of development partner capital, government financing mix to help such projects, funding ideas. What do we have in stock for such? I will be coming back to Dr. Isali and our PSST on that. I will run quickly to PSFU. PSFU has been providing financing through the Ministry of Finance. My brother Paul, what are the opportunities available? How sustainable are they? What can the private sector leverage on that a PSFU has identified and easily available for them? I think they're all here. Thank you, Paul. In about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And once again, good afternoon to everyone here. And thank you for the opportunity for PSFU to participate here in this. But also I bring you both greetings and apologies from our CEO, Mr. Stephen Asimwe. He's a regular participant in these gatherings, and he takes it very seriously that PSFU is represented and that the message is carried. I think the PSST, to just give quick context to the sharing from PSFU, is the PSST touched on the interventions that come from government, but in a way transit through an agency such as PSFU. So PSFU has been the main implementing agency for the competitiveness and enterprise development project that the PSST touched on, which focused on a high impact sector that was tourism. And that's the $68 million that he made reference to. And the focus for CEDEP, as it's commonly known, was to provide skilling, to provide financing for certain critical infrastructure. He talked about the Hotel, Tourism and Training Institute, and also certain opportunities, especially market promotion and so on. Obviously, CEDEP is at a tail end, but as you know, government has regular engagement, of course, with development partners, and such interventions will continue to come. There is also an existing intervention right now, and I'm sure you have heard of this. This was launched by His Excellency the President last year, which is focused on women-led or women-specific businesses. And I believe tourism is one of those, because tourism, first of all, in our space has been male-dominated, but is also a critical sector because of the revenue generation and contribution that we've spoken about. So there is the GROW project, which is a $217 million project, which has a commitment specific to access to finance of $90 million. Now, this intervention specifically is dealing with three things. It's providing a grant component, two grant components, one that will be accessed through a business competition where women-led enterprises that can show a compelling proposition about what they are going to do to improve their business, to expand their business, can win grants of up to $50,000. And that's a nationwide, the project is nationwide, so it's available to businesses, women businesses or women-led businesses that are active in this country. And tourism is one of those sectors that would obviously be supported. The other thing is what the 90 million provides is a line of credit of up to $50 million. And what is the line of credit going to do? We've spoken about access to finance challenges in this market that are specific to things like the interest rate, which is a very, very big driver of why people are not active, either in the financial sector, why they do not access certain funds. There are also issues around just collateralization. What kind of security can you get? If you look at our context, for example, for women, women, even when they own property, the social structure of our society is such that they have to get permission from spouses, and that can act as a constraint. So how are we providing products? How are we providing financial solutions that would support women-led businesses? So there is an aspect of that project, and like I said, about $50 million that will provide a line of credit, first of all, that will provide concessional funding, not more than 10.5% per annum through participating financial institutions, which the government will announce in not too long, and we expect this funding to be available to women-led enterprises as early as June of this year. And then the other will be, because we've seen in the research that was done prior to the project being launched, that women-led businesses generally fear to deal with formal financial institutions. So we are providing incentives within that project, and these obviously are one-off incentives for women-led businesses to come and interact with financial institutions, give them a rebate of sorts, which is a grant that supports them based on repayment behavior, that allows them to build credibility within financial institutions like the ones that James Karama was speaking about, with the idea that after the project, these women can continue to be supported by formal financial institutions. Now, this is project-specific funding. But you will also realize, just like CEDEP that is coming to a close, that you can't focus only on project funding because it is time bound. So the idea is, let's develop mechanisms, financing mechanisms, and one of those is the GROW funding that I'm talking about, because the Ministry of Finance is setting up a structure that will allow that fund of 50 million and perhaps more coming out of it to be able to live beyond the project that ends in 2027. And the idea is to create a catalytic fund that will support women-led businesses beyond the project life, with funding through financial institutions, patient capital at low interest rates, and which can be accessed with innovative products so that the sectors can be supported. And tourism is one of those sectors that will continue to be supported under those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for bringing to light the GROW project that is available. During the question, you should plan to tell us, what do you mean by women lead? So that means if a company has men, it should not apply. So what do you mean? What do you contextualize as women lead? Because already if you look at the gender segregation of the leadership in this country, it is all women led. You can see the chairperson of UTB, the CEO of UTB, the PS. So what do you mean by women led? I think these people should be able to really understand that context very well. But thank you for bringing to light that there's going to be a development financing mechanism that is going to be generated for continuity. Quickly, I am going to come to my professor. My professor, Professor Isali, the key question here is, as most of the presenters have said, we need a mix of both financing, private, government. But incidentally, before the financing comes up, businesses have to have bankable proposals. The government must have bankable proposals. What is your view? What are your ideas on what would qualify some of these proposals to be bankable? What could be your advice currently to the tourism sector to have those kind of proposals so that they can be leveraged for financing by these institutions? Thank you very much, Professor Isari.
Thank you, Richard, and good evening to you all. I'm happy to join. But I think for this particular one, I join, if I'm not wrong, as someone from the Center for Public Investment Management at Makerere, and where the Ministry of Finance is supporting us to undertake the kind of work that we are going to be discussing here. So I will start by giving some very small context, reviewing a few things, which fortunately right from the keynote address through to our last panelist before me have alluded to. And I think the starting point for us is to recognize the immense potential of this particular sector, the tourism sector. And let me just highlight, maybe at the risk of repeating, maybe 3 or 4. Number one is the recent rankings by the global tourism ranking agencies of Uganda as a top tourism destination. I think they put us at number 4. But I think either yesterday or the day before yesterday, there was coverage in the media about also Uganda as a very good destination for workshops. And I think the rankings have gone up in the region. I think we were ranked number 2. I hope the news clip was correct. But that now adds to already the good potential, the natural attractions, and many other interventions that have already been made. But also recognizing that government continues to attach a lot of value on tourism. And one example we can see is in the strategic direction for the National Development Plan. Tourism is at the center of our economy for the next 5 years. Now, if we just look at it at that level, then one can be tempted to quickly conclude that since the potential is huge and opportunities are many, then any investment anywhere will give us a very good revenue stream and also will be profitable. It does not work quite like that. Approaching a funder, but anyone then putting in money will require evidence, will require proper evidence that the project will generate a good revenue stream and that it will be profitable. And this kind of work definitely has to be done at the project and at the business level. So the businesses will undertake this, the different projects will undertake the feasibility studies to comfort the potential lenders that what they are going to commit their resources to is actually viable. So that there is the main thing. But the work, the return is to the projects, the return is to the individual businesses, do not work in isolation of the broader operating environment and context. And that is where I want to use 1 or 2 minutes to channel, to focus my discussion. Now, what are these aspects then at the macro and sectoral levels that should be good anchors for the feasibility studies by the individual businesses and by the individual projects? A number of them have already been mentioned: the infrastructure, the legal regulatory environment, the tax and incentive structure. These are quite important to take into consideration. But when you look at the tourism sector, the PS here talked about the value chain. It has got so many what you might call nodes. So you have a transporter, you have food and beverages, you have entertainment services, you have accommodation, you have conference facilities, you have travel, you have the tour guides, you have quite a number of stakeholders and players along this. And one thing, when we are trying to understand viability of these investments, that I think we have not paid adequate attention to is that categorization. But most importantly, that categorization, these different stakeholders and nodes are intricately linked. They are closely linked. So one starting point for us to get a good anchor for our feasibility studies would be, one, to, of course, to reflect on these different nodes, but most importantly, to understand technically the linkages, the strength or otherwise of the linkages of these different nodes, these different stakeholders, these different activities. And doing that alone will help us in a way understand where the opportunities are, where the highest returns are. Because when you compute the linkages, you will begin understanding where along this chain is the good starting point to invest. You will also understand where you should start and the proper sequencing. So yes, whereas you will be doing the proposals at the project level, at the business level, we need these other aspects of the environment. The other one I can then mention is that if we appreciate the critical importance of all these, the linkages among these nodes, the environment, legal and regulatory, then I think the other area that we need possibly in equal measure as the policy is now to have a standardized understanding of the status quo of where we are on these different aspects. It will be unfortunately misleading to the financial institutions if each team developing a project are using different pieces of information which is not standardized. If we had the a status quo that tells us in greater detail where we are on these different activities, these different things, then it would give us a little more accurate numbers than I think we are able to generate now. So let me just conclude by really reiterating the point I wanted to make, which is a very simple one. Ultimately, we will need to have very good feasibility studies telling us about the revenue streams and profitability at the project, at the business level. But these are not going to be correct computations without anchoring them on the broader operating environment. And in this broader operating environment, I think we need to go beyond macro stability, we need to go beyond the tax and incentive regime, but we need also, given the nature of the tourism sector, we need to bring on board the strength or otherwise of the linkages between these different actors to be able to more clearly identify opportunities, to identify gaps, and then how we should proceed. The government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Finance, has extended some support to Makerere University to undertake studies of this nature, especially feasibility studies. So for the public investment projects in this sector, the PSST has supported us, and in turn, we will be available to support feasibility studies that will inform bankable projects in the tourism sector. I think I will leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Isali, Professor Isali, for especially the closing bit that there would be some resources to finance studies that are going to inform businesses in terms of investments, in terms of where they can be able to be financed, or giving them enough information. And the question would be later to answer is, how does, for example, UTB makes access to such financing that you have to support some studies that could be relevant to maybe marketing, to product development, and other areas. So we could be able to, you could provide that information at a later date. Quickly, I want to say that one of the things that my brother James said is that their level of financing and their level of risk does not take in charge things like public marketing, which eventually translates into the numbers that eventually translate into business for the private sector. Meaning that kind of space is left for government and government partners. And that points to the fact that the size of our marketing budget will speak to the volumes of numbers that will come to the country. That will, the PSS has assured us, is going to give us more money, but I would want him to put some icing. At what extent does he expect our marketing budget to grow? It is currently UTB gets about 24, now it has grown to 12. The biggest budget is recurrent expenditure. How do you market? It's a very big challenge. We need to look at, comparatively, if you look at Kenya, when I was still working in the cross countries, Kenya used to invest $5 million in digital marketing in 2018, 2019. That is the total budget of UTB in terms of both recurrent and marketing. How do we compare, and how do we be able to leverage? That is for the PSST. But there's something about sustainability of funding that I would want us to think. The tourism economies that we are talking about in the East, in the Central, and other countries have put tourism levies as a development fund, which is paid by the consumers, consolidated, and invested back in the sector. In 2008, government thought it wise to put a tourism levy in its act. Up to today, the implementation has not been finalized. This is to the PSST. It is within your control. Kenya has it, Tanzania has it. It is always there in our neighbors in Rwanda. It is in South Africa. It is in Dubai. That the revenue that comes to this sector, a portion of it is appropriated for sector development, both for government and private sector. That is to you, PSST. I'll invite quick questions as the PSST takes down some of the questions I have put for him and Dr. Isali. I will invite one or two questions from that they aggregated and answered at the same time. I'll start from here. Who is helping with the microphone? The Kenyans say upesi, move very fast. Here, we start from here. Then we will go to my brother. You tell us your name, and you have 1 minute to raise your question.
Thank you, moderator. I am Wanika Tadeo. I thank God for this great opportunity. Mine, I humbly ask you, moderator, is in the form of a connection. I am Wanika Tadeo, and I'm seeking a great help from all the audience and the delegates. I want to fulfill my dream. I want to be a great president of the United States of America, and this year I must work with the White House. Please, dear delegates, most especially Ambassador Jen Duck, we met in Serena. You talked to me in a very good way, and I have even your card. Please, since you are giving a great help to develop the tourism of this nation, may you humbly help me also promote me so that I fulfill my dream of becoming a great president of the United States of America. And to you, the delegates in this nation, I want to be also to expose this nation or to market Uganda in the world and the whole Africa as a great USA leader in all ways. Because once you are a stabilizing nation, flow of great things will come. God bless you when you are doing that.
Thank you very much. I would want to have, we thank you for your request. I would want us to summarize, but be very straight to the point and key to the topic of discussion. I'll have the other gentleman on that side. Then I'll have this lady here, then him, and we shall have the last question from him, and then we'll close.
Moderator, mine is going to be succinct. The PS, in clarification and presentation, defined what our mission and goal should be. European Union, you have a serious gap that the critical sector of funding to generate productivity in human resource capital development in Uganda is poor. Private sector group, insensitivity to identify the kind of project to fund, you have been blinded by lack of commitment, and this should be clarified now. Microfinance group, I comprehensively do not understand if I told you there to mitigate the challenges of financing in private sector entrepreneurial startups. Lastly, my inquiry, when the European Union and all these financial sectors heads are there, and the permanent secretary, the secretary to the treasury is also here, it is very despicable that if we don't all along prioritize skill and vocational development, training colleges in the regions, that we are doing nothing. That challenges our eloquence in English. How do we then, therefore, say tourism training college is in Jinja, well over my age. Are we not saying we should distribute this training component as European Union? Then we stop foreign migration from here, brain drain the challenges in the country. It is unless we see it critically that if we don't, then there's no need for us to understand the BRICS and the NICS. I challenge the panel to address skill and vocational development. In tourism, you can't tell me we have this hotel sitting every day, and we're not focusing on skill development to manage the project that we talk about tourism.
Summarize the question.
We don't have the human resource to address the dream right on the board now. Tourism, human resource is not there. Can we cultivate? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The key question is the human resource development component in the tourism sector. Capital development for human resource. Thank you. Capital development for human resource. How do we address that gap? Currently, we have one college. So that is the key question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the panelists and the organizers of this meeting. I'm called Nora Nyeko. I'm from Gulu. I really wanted to know what the panelists thought about what the Ugandan citizen can play, what the ordinary Ugandan citizen can play in promoting and marketing Uganda, because we have so many young people who are really strong influencers, and I think sometimes we're looking at the very big picture when sometimes even the ordinary person can do so much to market the country. Like, for example, I recently had visitors who I met when I was abroad asking me, what can I do when I come to Uganda? And I really didn't know. So I was just wondering what they thought, because I think there's a very strong role that we can do with the digital infrastructure. I know Facebook is still blocked, and yet this is something that can promote us so much. The other thing I thought we should really look into is how payment modalities for transactions that we do online, they should really be accessible to us. Because, for example, in northern Uganda, we make a lot of beautiful products, but they're all exported. And so the ordinary person like me cannot sell them online to, say, an American, you know? And I find that's something that we really need to work on improving. So I think that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Digital access. How do we improve investment in digital access for youth, for young people, to be used for business development? Thank you. Your name and question?
Okay. My the name is Katsime Justice, and I'm a civil society ambassador. So my question is, I've heard critically what has been presented, but you will see that tourism sounds to be one of the, it should be attracting revenue, both foreign and domestic to Uganda. But yet you see the much of the budget of Uganda, for example, now is still being funded by what? By foreign borrowing, you see? And the debt burden is growing. So I fail to understand whether really tourism is doing the best for our country. Thank you.
Thank you. What is tourism doing? Our budget is growing. Our debt burden. There was one more question there. The last question at the back. Oh, after Dennis Intege, then we shall have the last question from the back. Keep it.
Yeah, thank you.
Short, but straight to the point.
Thank you, Mr. Kawere. Intege is my name. I'm a private tour operator. I thank the panelists for an honest feedback that you're giving us in regards to the major goal of this call, which was financing. The PSST did ask himself and asked the audience as well, challenged us as he was concluding in his submission about what exactly should we do in relation to driving this agenda, whether it's going to be government-led or private sector-led. I would want to say from the presentation, I think government should lead because the gap is quite huge in relation to the funding. There are things that we, as the private sector, would want to put money into, but like our comrade from Stanbic Bank, I think, did mention, they have the limitations on time. Our brother from PSFU did as well mention they have those intervention gaps that definitely we are taking advantage of as tour operators and the tourism fraternity in general. But you will realize we still are limited in the uptake. And I believe, Doctor, in your research that you do, if it can be tailored and figured to the us, the end users as well, on the perspective of us as the end users and the drivers of tourism, we can definitely channel our needs in your research so that the government and our development partners and PSFU, where most of our challenges are addressed, you can come up with a comprehensive plan that can help us achieve the desired 4 million visitors like we are targeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis has a comment, not more a question. Who should lead? Government must lead. So we have the last question from the gentleman at the back. Make it very precise.
Okay.
Straight to the question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Daniel. I work with the Kainera Farms. But I just have 2 questions to the PS. What could be some of the ideal solution for some of us who are setting up recreation and tourism centers deep in the villages there? We are operating a farm or an agri-tourism center deep in Kayunga there, but we have problems of power. So I don't know how we could go about it so that we can have power onto the farm, because we do value addition on some of the products. What do we do farm there? Secondly, we have the issue of, I hope it will not attract the IFRIS part of it from the PSC. We do import, we do construct, let me say the hotel facility there, but I don't know how we could go about on some of these imported materials that are used in the construction of these infrastructures there in terms of taxation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. That marks our questions. I will get back to our panelists. Most of the questions were rotating around the PSST. I'll give him an opportunity to give us a response as Dr. Isali also prepares, and any other member of the panel. Thank you, PSST.
Thank you very much. I think we should agree that from all the submissions and the feedback, we all recognize the significance of this sector. But also, we all know the issues that need to be addressed. Usually I ask myself, so what is impeding us from progressing as we would wish? I should tell you that we have a plan. We have now a plan to grow not only the tourism sector, but the economy of Uganda. And this plan is a very good plan. We are saying that for us to get to the tenfold growth which we are now targeting, we are going to step up the investment in growing Uganda's global brand. That is something we must invest in, growing the brand, the global brand of Uganda. By stepping up in investing in the marketing, investing in marketing. Now the gentleman, the tour guide, has told me I'm on the right track by investing in Lily and her team. It's the best way. So that one shouldn't be any problem anymore, any kind of debate, because we have also been getting a lot of debate, unnecessary debate, from the stakeholders, and very key. When I see debates on TV, debates in these conferences, you find that we haven't gotten consensus. We need that consensus. Let us all agree that investment in the marketing is going to be led by the Uganda Tourism Board. Leading means that they will take the planning role of that marketing role, the funding of that role, and the development of synergies. And I want to assure you one thing: we are going to invest in the branding and marketing of Uganda. This one I assure you. But as we do that, we need to leverage, because tourism is word of mouth, mainly, through the digital platforms. We need to take advantage of these global platforms which have been created. I see so many jurisdictions taking advantage of them. The TripAdvisor, the Viata, and so on. And then the international media. I would want to see Uganda now in the living rooms of everyone around the world. And we can achieve this. We are going to do it under our new strategy. But I wouldn't want to hear more debates and debates about it. We have agreed that UTB will take the lead and then coordinate with others. We are also going to invest more in infrastructure related to tourism. I've already told you of the physical infrastructure we have now in the new budget, and those which we are processing in the roads, in the aerodromes, in the electricity, in the internet, and accommodation. We are going to support effective regulation of the sector for safety, for standards. I'm now defining the role of us as the state, as government, to better target also our scarce resources, though I would want to see a sustainable coexistence between the public and the private sectors. Let's all be in one room and agree on this and agree on the roles. Time has come for us to have a clear implementation plan of our agenda with a full-fledged Gantt chart defining the roles, the tools that we need each, and then how are we providing those tools as the different stakeholders. Our job as government is to mobilize also our development partners. And we do this and work together. They bring resources, but we frustrate them sometimes when we are not very well targeted and organized. We are saying this, we are saying the other, this, you know. So that one, once we sort it out, trust me, we are going to move very well. Someone is saying the budget is funded by borrowing. I've seen a lot of distortions. I'm going to go back to teaching. I used to teach about the national budget now. How is it structured? many of the below the line things which we used not to put in the budget, now we put them there as memo items to inform the country that the following are obligations which are there. But it doesn't mean that we are going to pay for them that year. No. So when you see a 72 trillion budget, it does not mean that we are going to go and find money for 72 trillion. No, actually the money we are going to fund in that budget is not more than 38 trillion. The rest are memo items, below the line items. And of that 38 trillion, which we fund, then plus about 9 trillion, which is project financing, of the 38, you'll find that about 31 trillion is revenue from you Ugandans, revenue to finance the budget. So a lion's share of your budget, you finance it through the domestic revenue. It's about now 14 trillion, which we are going to borrow for mainly the projects and some little for the budget support. But that one will be for another day, not here. I will explain. I'm going to explain the national budget. Because I think when the politicians are putting it together, and also with a lot of distortion in Uganda. You know, Ugandans, you love bad news more than good news. When we talk of bad news, everybody is happy to participate. Good news, nobody is interested. That's the task which you have in the tourism environment to work on, how to get Ugandans to love good news and to expound it. In many other societies, people expound their good news. Here, we love the bad one. When it's not there, we create it. We try to create it. It is something which we need also to work on. You will not promote tourism when your main job is to amplify bad news. You know, I was in the Treasury office of the US. I think I was in Paris, and we were comparing numbers with my counterpart there, and said, you know, your economy, what it is not what I see on the internet. On the internet, I see something else. He said, why is your country, why don't you love yourselves, you people? That's the question he asked a Frenchman, who's my equivalent, a secretary to Treasury there. By coincidence, these spring meetings, I was in Washington, and we were meeting in the Treasury. Same question, as if they caucused. I usually just say, yeah, we are Uganda. In Uganda, we are noisy, but we mean well. We only scrutinize ourselves. And whenever people don't have enough information, they will create theirs. So we shall clarify on how the national budget works. Setting up tourism and the recreation centers in the countryside. This is where we really want to support you. We have enough resources in our ecosystem, financial ecosystem, to support such people who create wealth. They have, His Excellency, he has told you, some money is in UDB. The challenge, some people, I don't know whether you are bankable. Some people are not bankable. In other words, they can't easily get money from a financial institution because they don't have what it takes to be trusted by a financial institution. We have been trying our level best as government to provide also alternative funding to de-risk people who are creating wealth. In that national budget, my minister is going to present next month, we have about 4 trillion shillings in total in wealth creation, initiatives in different areas. We are among, I think, in sub-Saharan African countries, among the top governments in terms of providing support for wealth creation. But you'll find that many people do not know how to take advantage of them. We shall be improving on effective communication of them so that you know. But we have resources in UDB, we have resources in a microfinance support center, we have resources which we pass through different financial institutions. Now we have brought also a new program under the Bank of Uganda, the Invite project, a $200 million project for export-oriented people. And you know, tourism is export-oriented. You are exporting a service. Because, you know, some people think to export is to lift things and put them on a truck and you take them to Mombasa, and you can also export from the room here. And you qualify for such funding and so on. So we shall be able to show you the way. On this, you need power and so on. There are those programs of rural electrification. But I would encourage you to use economics also to set up some of these things. Don't set them away from power, so far away. We have tried our level best to take power to different points. But you know, sometimes you have the land of your grandfather somewhere and you say, that's where I should put my little thing. It's very far away from the grid and so on. It becomes quite expensive for you to run it. You'd rather get some, you trade off the other and you come near the one which is near power. In those yesteryears, all industries used to set up in Jinja when we didn't have power in many countries. Jinja was the industrial town. Why they were setting up there? Because that's where there was power. They were not going to Rukunjiri or to wherever. Until now, we took power to, but also we are concentrating it to where government can manage, what we call industrial parks. But now for tourism, we know those tourism destinations need power. And this is what I started with, to show you what we are doing. You have already done. Now most of those our major tourism destinations, we are connecting them to the national grid. Where we don't have it, we are getting alternative, and we are going to continue on that trajectory. Finally, the imported materials. I think somebody was wondering when they import materials to invest in, I think some of these tourism attractions, the infrastructure you are building, accommodation and so on. Government has a full policy on supporting investment in what we call strategic sectors, and tourism is one of them. Most of all these hotels you see, you are sitting in, all these things which were imported didn't pay tax. We supported them. When we were building most of those, especially 5-star lodges and hotels, we exempt them from VAT, they are VAT deemed, from import duty of certain plant and materials. Government has a clear program for it. Sometimes those are the things you hear some politicians saying we are wasting money, we are offering people unnecessary tax breaks, but it is actually to promote these kind of investments. We know for sure that when this hotel now that it is here, we supported it to build, now it is here, that money you have paid them, now we are going to get a tax revenue. We get tax revenue now from them. And much more money now. That's why the revenue has increased. This coming year, we are going to collect about 29 trillion from taxes and another 2 trillion from non-tax revenue, about 31 trillion shillings to finance the budget. Because we have been doing those what we call industrial policy initiatives. So tourism, ladies and gentlemen, is on top. We have what we call ATMs now. ATMs is the strategy of Uganda for growth. Agro-industrialization, tourism development, mineral development, including oil and gas, and then science, technology, and innovation. We call them ATMs. Those ones, we are supporting them going forward. We have been supporting them, but going forward, we are going to invest in more. And as I've committed here, please ask me every year, you committed, what have you done? Beginning with this coming year, ask me. I'm committing, we are going to support tourism development. We have started, but also tourism does not end with only the Ministry of Tourism and its agencies. This one, I've emphasized it here. Tourism goes beyond just those who are managing the tourism. You need power, you need roads, you need security in those areas. You remember what happened when they killed our tourists, two of our guests here, the kind of damage it can cause. But when we speak some of these things, some people say, don't tell us about security. Tell us the money you have put in the tourism. No, it's a combination of all of those together. Internet. Without internet in those destinations, tourists will not stay there for longer. He can't talk to his family or her family home. They will spend there 2 days and move. But when they are comfortable, they are communicating, the water is warm, the food is good, the environment is hygienic, there are no mosquitoes, or where there are mosquitoes, you have mechanisms of providing health care of standard and so on, then they spend more days and we earn more revenue. That's the strategy we are using, a value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, PSST. We are going to, I'll end, give me 5 minutes, we close so that you can go very well. We're going, leading needs money, me inclusive in the training sector. You haven't talked about us. Human capital development. Don't worry, human capital development. But I know you're going to provide for us money. I'll end with His Excellency. I'll start with the PSFU. Just your parting shot out of this discussion. What is there that you offer? What is the women lead? Just in 1 minute.
I won't keep the PSST waiting. Just the question on women-led for the GROW project is an enterprise that has more than 50% women ownership. That's it. So it can be owned 100% by a woman, or if there are other stakeholders from the male gender, as long as the woman or women own more than 50%, it's a women-led business. Thank you.
Thank you, women-led. Dennis, you heard. Make sure you increase women shareholding in your company so that 250 USD can be available to start with you. So women now are marketable. You must include them in your business. My brother James, your parting shot in 1 minute.
I'd only like to echo the PSSC's remarks about the bankability of the business. And that's an important point. And I'm happy to hear that finance has put some money to Makerere University to support feasibility reports and writing. So bankability is important. Is your business bankable? That's a big question I'd like to leave you with before you approach a bank. Thank you.
Is your business bankable? What are those that you need, those steps, the criteria? What must you have? And Dr. Isari is going to be answering that. Government has given him some money to help you on that. Also PSFU. Dr. Isari, quickly, your parting shots on bankability, on how people can access the resource in terms of knowledge, in terms of research. How possible is it for the private sector and government agencies to access those services?
Thank you so much. And I think for now, we stand to be corrected, but we will start off with the public sector initiatives. The important thing then is we get in touch early enough, then we incorporate it in our work plan so that we see what we are able to take off in any given year. But beyond what is available under the Center for Public Investment Management, there is also support for research and innovation generally, where there will be a little more flexibility, where now the private sector and all the other government agencies can then come on board. Again, I think if this is brought up in good time, the university will be able to take up this. And what is interesting here is that under this other stream of the research and innovation funding, the work can be done jointly. It's not giving the topic to the university and wait for an output, but it's something that can be done jointly so that we can own the results together and so that they can make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Isali. That means the owner of the idea and the university work together to produce the feasibility or the document that you may want to help you to be bankable. Your Excellency,
Yes,
in your parting shots,
Thanks
there
a lot.
is the 60 million that has been 60 billion in
Billion.
UDB, the uptake, the conditions, the feedback. Can we flex? Can we be able to be flexible? Can we tone it down so that the absorption is increased? Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, and it was great to be here with you all. And let me start by, I want to hand over this brochure to the PSST. It's an EU product. It's basically an encyclopedia about how we see the tourism sector in Uganda. Obviously, you are already very well aware, but it could serve some purposes also in the Ministry of Finance. So here you are. And there are, for everyone, there is another copy by the entrance, and we have Louise managing that. I just wanted first to take some takeaways from the discussion here. We were here to discuss access of finance, and that's obviously a very important aspect. But I think one of the main takeaways here is this broader picture that the PSST presented, that tourism touches so many areas of society, roads, and now you mentioned also security. I can confirm that, of course, the killing of those tourists made sort of a negative impact in my part of the world. And then I was very happy to hear what you were saying about branding of Uganda and your ideas to invest more in that. And I can confirm the need for that, really, because Uganda, frankly speaking, in my part of the world, it is not very well known. You know, people know it's an African country, but if I ask a random person in the street in my home country of Sweden about Uganda, what they will know is first they will know about Idi Amin. And sometimes they don't know much more, you know. Then they will know about wildlife and so on. But there's so much more to present from Uganda to create this positive image of Uganda. And I can, you know that, of course, but would benefit tourism, but it would also benefit export, which is another very important aspect that we are not covering here. But there are many synergies between this, and I take coffee as an example. We're very happy to import a lot of coffee from Uganda into Europe, 65% of all the export. And if you promote coffee export and you promote the image of Uganda, and people realize that this good coffee that I drink, it comes from Uganda, they will start, looking more into where's Uganda, what about Uganda? And then they might even consider, wow, this looks like a great country to visit, let me go there. And then they come here, and then they drink more coffee, and then they return and they tell all their friends, I was in Uganda and they have fantastic coffee, let's buy some more coffee from Uganda. So there are all these fantastic synergies that you can have from that. And I think it will be important in this process for Uganda to understand how it is perceived in the world. And here you have sort of all aspects really. It can be from my conveyor belt at the airport to even politics, and in between, all of that in between, the roads and the safety and so on. And I'm happy I can, as a diplomat here, I'm happy to be that kind of mirror. You can look into the mirror and I will tell you how Uganda is perceived, and you can do whatever you want with that information, but I think it can be important. And it also this ambition to brand Uganda and to open up Uganda and to reach out, actually I think is also very important in the political and foreign political field, where we need to see more of Uganda and Africa on the international stage. So all of this will, I think, create a lot of synergies, the ambition to be out there. And there was one question from Gulu here about what can the Ugandan people do. And I think, first of all, you have an asset in all the Ugandans simply because you are very friendly people. And I'm not saying this only to flatter. I have been in many African countries, and I will not name any other countries, but I can compare, and there's a sort of an openness, a hospitality, a welcoming attitude, and people are simply often very great fun, to talk to and so on. So it's you have an asset in people, and tourism will obviously put many of the Ugandan people in jobs, which is I think a very important result of all of this. You mentioned young people, and I think you mentioned sort of production, souvenirs, and so on. I can tell you also that the European market is totally open for Ugandan products. As long as you don't send us weapons, we will receive everything without any quotas and tariffs. And I think there's a market in Europe also for Ugandan handicraft. It's already happening. Plus coffee, of course, which already employs millions of Ugandan families. So this is what I wanted to conclude about the discussions. And on the EU support, we will stay committed, as I told you, with our new project as well, this 60 billion Ugandan shillings. And it's, of course, a drop in the ocean in the bigger economy that the PSST is managing. But we think that our support can have sort of synergistic and catalytic effects. So please, keep an eye out for what we are planning. Please engage with us. We have, as I said, Luis Chiguero here who can tell you more about it and what we are going to do. So thanks a lot again for a very interesting discussion.
Thank you, Your Excellency. With those remarks from His Excellency, I want us to proud to give this panel an applause. Thank you so much, very big officers, for giving us this time. I think the discussion now can continue. We have learned that marketing is going to be on the top of the table, and human capital development, if you think about it, that's where we are. So I'm going to ask you to stand up and step one step forward for photograph. Somebody, when I say I was part of the panel, they may say I'm lying. Yeah, we are going to, yes, Chair, even if you're not part of the panel, you are the owner of this function.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. CEO. Thank you very much. Before you go, PSST, please bring me a token of appreciation very quickly to the first presenter, the PSST. We thank you very much for coming. So we shall give you something small to take home, especially where you're going to write all the tourism contributions and investment. So the chairperson of the board will present. Thank you very much. And he has said he's going to increase the budget of marketing. May I have the next for His Excellency? We want to allow you safe passage, so you can wait for a minute. Then the next package. Please quickly. James, thank you so much. Please, when you go back, you tell the CEO that we love you so much for giving us some money. This is Paul. Paul, thank you so much. In there are goodies to market Uganda. And this is for my professor. This is to my professor, Professor Isali. Thank you very much for teaching all of us. Members, we shall give our panelists the first opportunity to leave. Louis, please escort my chief guest. Thank you very much, members, for coming. Thank you so much. I know we may not have exhausted our discussions, but we should continue the discussions. Dennis, you want... Your Excellency, Your Excellency, one of the biggest investors in adventure tourism would want to have a word with you in this country.
Is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small.